Today's topic is a fun one and an important one. One of the things you find if you're a business owner, the first thing people are going to ask you is, who's your market? You go see a coach, the first question is, who's your market? You see a copywriter like me, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, who's your target market? Who are we writing to? If I don't know that, I can't do anything. So when you don't know your clients, you waste huge amounts of time creating offers that don't sell. You probably know this. I bet I'm preaching to the choir because you chose to come to this session. It's hard to send a consistent message because you're talking to this person and that person and any person. You spend a lot of time writing copy for sales letters, for landing pages and lead magnets, and your conversions are low. Now, when you do know your clients, you're much more productive. You easily craft a compelling message. The copy practically writes itself. You direct resources most effectively. You know exactly where to put your money for your marketing. And yet it's not the easiest thing to do. Here's why it's hard to know your clients. First of all, they don't usually know themselves. I mean, if you ask them, why did you buy? I mean, ask yourself, last time you bought something, why? You probably don't know. I mean, I don't know why I buy half the things I do. I mean, I kind of do, but the reason I tell myself, the reason I tell other people might not be the real reason. And I might not tell people the real reason. I'm not always comfortable sharing why I bought something. You need the complete story behind why they're buying. So what do business owners typically try? Well, they try demographics and psychographics. In fact, when I taught marketing, I was a college professor for about 20 years. I taught marketing in business schools around the country and actually in Canada as well. And I have found that we taught marketing 101, we taught segmentation, we talked about demographics, we talked about psychographics, and they're useful, but they're not really as helpful as they could be. And you'll see why. I mean, we know women 18 to 35, what does that tell you? Not much. There's a lot of women out there 18 to 35. So what do business owners typically try? Well, one of the most common bits of advice you will get is to talk to one person or avatar. And that is someone you describe, you know their name, you say, okay, who are they? What are they? Oops. You are talking to them, but when this is successful, the idea of an avatar is you imagine your ideal client sitting across from you at a table. You imagine what she looks like, you imagine what he's wearing, everything about them. And one of the ways of doing this is you imagine you're at a bar together and you happen to run into this person and he says, here's my big problem. Well, when this is successful, you're not talking to the person, you are talking to their story. So I'm going to show you another way to do this. And that involves getting to know the person, but not talk to the person, but talk to their story. So that means finding out what is their story. So what is a client's backstory? What does the client bring to their meeting with you? That's what you want to know. When someone calls you and says, I want a consultation, and I work primarily with services, so I'm not sure how this would translate, but I think it would to a product business. So let's say that you run a gym, you're a fitness trainer, and you say, well, you know, what does your client come to you with? Well, they say, I can't walk, my legs hurt, or I just had an injury and my doctor told me I better get some physical therapy, or I better get back in shape, or I want to get in shape because I'm getting ready to go run a marathon or join the army or do something like that. That's what they bring. That's their backstory. That's why they're coming to you. And that is the single most important piece of information you need. It's a combination of their needs, their experience, their beliefs, their expectations, and of course, their fears, which are very real to them. I want you to think about baggage. You know, think about what happens when you're in a relationship. And let's face it, being with a client, if you're a service business, is a relationship, even if it's a short one. Every relationship has baggage. If you dated someone, you were involved with a person, they brought baggage, right? And if you don't deal with that baggage, what happens? The relationship goes south. So when you think of their baggage and what they bring, what I recommend is you ask 3 questions. And we don't have time today. I have a course that goes into more detail about how you find out, how you dig deeply into these and how you do research. But a lot of this you can do just by knowing what you're looking for. You can do on your own. So what you want to start out with is, what do they see as their problem? What is bothering them? What brought them here today? In most service businesses, we rarely get people who are there for just because they, I just thought I'd come in today spontaneously. I thought I'd go and have some fun. I mean, I just saw in the paper a joke about someone who claimed he went to the dentist because he was bored. I mean, come on, nobody does that. You might go to the hairstylist because just for fun. But most people, even with a hairstylist or a manicure, they have a reason. And if you dig deeper, you'll find out. For example, getting your nails done might seem totally frivolous, except when you think about, for some people, it's a really important part of their identity, having their nails done. I've known people who will get their nails done even when they're going through a phase of being broke. They don't have a lot of money, but that is a part of their identity. It's something that makes them feel good about themselves. That's the problem for them. It's not just, I want my nails to be pretty, or I have a hangnail, or my nail broke. No, it's relating to something deeper. You want to know what they see in their words, because when you write to them, you don't want your words, you want their words. So how do they define their problem? And you may have to dig to get that. The second thing you need, which is really important, is what's holding them back from solving their problem. I mean, if they could do it themselves, they would not be coming to you, right? So what's holding them back? What is the hard part of solving this problem? And third, what is the context? Or what have they tried before and that has not worked? For instance, if you're a fitness trainer, you want to know, what have they tried? Have they run around the block by themselves? Have they tried diet changes? Have they done exercises to videos? Why are they here? Or maybe they've always had a fitness trainer. This is just part of their lives. They still have a goal. They have a reason, and they've tried other people, other things, and you want to know what that is. That turns out to be one of the most important questions that you will ask them. Now, your client's story helps you understand where they are coming from, where they're really coming from. It's a lot more than being 18 to 35. And you also want to understand things that they don't plan to share. Now, you're not going to invade their privacy, of course, but you will listen between the lines and try to figure out what is really bothering them. What are they really afraid of? What are they worried about? Now, people use the backstory word differently. A client relationship, I say, is like any other. And I say people come with baggage. And that's where I see the analogy as being really, really important. For example, let's say that you are, well, I'll go with one of mine. I'm a copywriter, and mostly now I do copy coaching and strategy. And someone comes to me and says, I've worked with 3 other copywriters and it's been a disaster. That's their baggage. Or it might be, I've been up all night for the last week trying to get this piece of copy done. They usually use more colorful language when they describe that kind of problem. That's their baggage. And the relationship only works when you understand their baggage. It's like going out with someone, being engaged and in a relationship with someone who becomes a significant other. And you want to know, I mean, if they've been divorced 3 times, they're going to be different than if they've never been married before. That's exactly the kind of thing you want to know about your client, because that's how the relationship succeeds. You have to get the elephant out of the room. And you can actually use the backstory to create your marketing. I'll give you an example here. One backstory is, I've spent thousands of dollars on web design and have nothing to show for it but a ton of credit card debt. That's a backstory that one business owner uses. The rest of the story goes on. I'm not technical. I don't want to be. Websites can be scary. My web developer disappeared, taking my passwords with him. How many times have we heard that one? Now, not all web developers are bad, and not all people have this experience, but this particular service is targeting people with this backstory. Remember, people have different backstories, and you're only targeting those whose backstory relates to you. And that backstory became a very successful business, which still continues today. The website Creation Workshop with Christina Hills. I took it years ago. It's excellent. She tells you how to actually build a WordPress website. With working out of that backstory, she's got the answer. Here's another example. Hiring a copywriter is really scary. I'm afraid I'll spend too much money and get nothing. I've heard that one before. My last copywriter charged $30 an hour, and I ended up spending $4,000. Ridiculous. I vowed to avoid that mistake. So I actually have a free ebook. If anyone wants to put it in the chat, I can type in the link to it. 7 mistakes most businesses make when they hire a copywriter. Actually, I've revised that now to the top 3 things a copywriter gives you. But in fact, I did use this for a while, and my own marketing focuses on people with that backstory, because what I tell people is if you're going to be quoted $30 an hour, that's meaningless. You want to know the total amount. So that's a backstory I hear a lot. So you can also avoid these mistakes when you know the backstory. One of the things that's easy to do is to target a problem that does not exist. For example, in the case of the web development program, you may say, well, I'm going to come up with a program that helps you be a one-stop shop. I did this for a while where people said, I don't want to go to 2 places for my copywriting and my web design. And then you could create a whole business, and you could find the people, find the designers, find the writers, and put them all together into a business. But if people don't care about, if that's not a problem for them, you're wasting a lot of time and money. In the case of the fitness center, if people, maybe they are coming in because it's summer and they want to look good in their bathing suits and shorts and things like that. If you would target that market, you may find that those people are not coming to your type of gym. Maybe what you're targeting are people who have injuries and want to recover, or vice versa. You may have a whole program on people who have been injured, people who have not exercised for a while, and you discover the market doesn't exist. Or if it does, they're not coming and paying. So you avoid these mistakes when you ask these 3 questions very carefully. You also might be targeting a problem that the clients don't know they have. This is really critical because a lot of times you know they have a problem. What instead you would need to be doing is targeting the symptoms, the things they talk about when they talk about what is their problem and what are the obstacles. That's a big clue to what you can do. You could overcome those obstacles. Like the person who says, I would build my own website, but I'm not technical. Well, that's something they have to overcome, and you take care of that. You say, my solution, you don't have to be technical. If you want more, you can go here. I have a free giveaway. I typed it into the chat as well. This is a free book. You don't have to pay anything, instant download on baggage and how you can really find your client's backstory with the 3 questions. And I'm going to take questions. And if you don't have questions, I will move ahead and come up with some. So let's see if I can get back to the program. Oh, okay. Here are the questions. Let me ask the questions first. And comments, please feel free to ask more. So let me go back over the questions. I love questions. I was a college professor for many years, and one of the things I used to do is bug people, like, please, let's have a question. Let's see if I can get into the chat. This platform is new, so if I don't answer your question, it means I didn't see it. Okay, I think it's fine. The audio is horrible. I think it's fine. Thank you very much. Oh, Connie Green, I think I've known Connie for years. She likes to come in with these little things. Okay, so what have you tried is a really important question, especially having experience from the other end. Yeah, that is very, very true. People will, a lot of times, if you know what they've tried that didn't work, you can tailor your offer so that you can do the things the other people or the other offers don't. For example, let's say you are a specialist in aromatherapy and you want to offer people relaxation. That's really, really important, because if they've tried exercise and it didn't work, they tried therapy and it didn't work, you want to say, okay, here is what will really work for you. And I'm glad, Ingeborg, thank you for typing in the questions. Yeah, and actually I'll type it in again. You can get a free ebook that goes through this for you and goes through this in more detail. So if you want to get more. So if there are, let's see, other questions. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, well, let me expand further then on some of the other points that we made. Let me go back to, wonder if they'll let me share my screen again. But what I was going to say is, I'll go back to some of the points again. Let me expand a little on the three parts of the question. The first part being the problem. One of the things I want to mention that people sometimes ask me about is, can I share this? Aha, I can. One of the things people ask me about is, there we go. Yeah, is when you look at the question, what do people really, what is their problem and what is the obstacle? One of the things I encourage people to do, and again, one of the things I encourage people to do is to think about what are their clients' fears about hiring you? And this is one of the things that will come up in the what have you tried before and what is your obstacle? For example, let's say you're hiring something not even threatening, like an interior decorator. A lot of people are really scared. I mean, is the decorator going to come and judge you? Are they going to look at your furniture, which, like mine, is sort of early graduate student that I haven't changed in however many years? Or are they going to look at your colors and say, oh my God, those are so ugly? Are they going to say you have too much stuff, you need to get rid of it when you really love it? That's very scary to people. So you have the judgment component. If you're in almost any service, people are scared to ask that question, like, what is, they're scared to come and see you because they don't want to be judged. And they also are afraid that you'll end up giving them a lot more than they need. They're afraid of the expense. They're afraid of moving into, they're going to be asked to do something. They're afraid you're going to turn their world upside down. I know I had a client who was a decorator, and people would be afraid that she was going to come in and paint their rooms with pink polka dots on a purple background because they knew somebody whose decorator did that. So that is very scary. So one of the things I encourage people to think about is, why are your clients afraid? What is holding them back? And when you go into their backstory, you're going to find that. Lawyers, for example. Why are people afraid to call lawyers? Because lawyers can be extremely arrogant. If you're a lawyer and you're not arrogant, let me know. I want to talk to you. But a lot of lawyers can be very arrogant. They can minimize your problem. They can say, I don't know what, your case is too small. Financial planners, do you have enough money? There's all kinds of things going on with let me fix this slide. There's all kinds of things going on that you may want to be aware of when you do this. So anyway, that's one of the things I wanted to point out when we talk about the problem, when we talk about the obstacles, because I know a lot of times we don't think about that. We just think, what is the problem? And as copywriters and as marketers, we look at problems like, is it based on money? Is it based on love? Is it based on a medical need or a social need? Those are the kinds of things that we focus on. But we also want to focus on what the clients are worried about with us. They have really a fear associated with the problem, and they also have a fear of hiring someone. In the earlier presentation, I mentioned someone who paid $30 an hour ended up with $4,000. That happens. So people are afraid. So that's where, when you learn what they've tried before, you'll pick that up. So let me return to the questions. Okay. Do you teach something? I don't pattern interrupt copywriting. No, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it. Maybe I should learn. So, but I don't, to my knowledge, teach that. I teach storytelling. I teach copywriting through storytelling. We begin with your story when I work with clients, and it's not necessarily your story. It's a story that only you can tell. It might not even be about you. It might be about someone you've worked with. It might not even be about anything in your life. It might be a concept story where you are using an analogy drawn from life. So Jennifer has a question. What about the people who ask for your help and they come across as knowing everything? I work with many in academia. Well, as a former academic myself, I can certainly relate to that. One of the things, again, you might do, you mind typing in what your field is? Because I could answer that more directly. But I know a lot of people, if they come in and say, well, I want you to help, but I already know what you need to do. I get this a lot in copywriting because someone will say, well, you don't need to do very much. I've already done this, and all you have to do is tweak it. And when someone says that, I cross my fingers because I know that I am going to get the worst god-awful piece of copy you've ever seen as soon as someone says, just a few tweaks, it looks pretty good as is. And you're absolutely right. People will come in and say, I've already got this. But then you start asking them questions. And we don't have as much time here, but in the course we go into this, is how do you phrase the question? If they don't want to say they have a problem, it's what do you need? What are you looking for? Why are you here? Why are you on the phone? Why are you in my inbox? There's got to be something that is there's a reason they came to you. And then you could say, well, you're very smart, you could do it yourself. But in fact, one thing I do tell people is people who hire me usually are very smart people. I actually get copywriters sometimes hiring me to look at their copy. So you can do that. And then healthcare, healthcare is very tricky as a service. Change management, because you're getting people who think they don't need to change, they're resisting change. And my suggestion would be that when you ask these 3 questions, lean really hard on what they've tried before. And I don't know the details, so I'm kind of shooting in the dark here, but my guess is they've had experience with change managers who came in and created really unbelievably weird programs that wasted a lot of time, used up a lot of money that could have been developed elsewhere. And then now you're here saying, well, we've got some new programs for you. And when you find out what they've done, you won't get defensive and say, well, we're not doing that, but you can directly point out to their concerns, and you could tailor your presentation to alleviate the concerns of what they've tried before. So that would be a very good way of doing it. And I think when you start digging more deeply into their stories and ask them, in fact, I just thought of this, a good non-threatening question would be something like, you're here, you've hired us to come in and do this, or you're considering hiring us. Tell me a little about what's going on now. Just tell me a story about what happened last week. Tell me what it was like. Tell me the beginning. Tell me the middle. Tell me what you'd like to see differently. And then you might even say, as a variation, tell me another story. Tell me a story of what your world will look like after we've been here and helped you. What do you think your world will be like after we've been here, after we've changed things? That'll give you a lot of clues. And again, without a lot more detail, it's hard to say, but that's the direction I would go if I met that kind of attitude. And I've been in academia, and yes, I know we can come across as know-it-alls, but I like to say what academia taught me was, as a professor, was that the smartest people always ask the most questions. And I know in every group I'm in, I'm always the one with my hand up. Yeah, I have a question. And I never worry about it. I mean, I know I'm not stupid, so I don't care. I just ask anything. So I think you'll find different kinds of people. Healthcare is another layer because you have the medical egos, which I won't even go into. And then thank you for asking the question. And then Alex says, do you have any advice on the flip side? If I answer these questions while asking for help, Jennifer says, thank you. You're very welcome. Alex says, if I answer the questions, that's an interesting question. I would say when you're dealing with someone and you're considering hiring them, look for what they want to know before you offer information. If they start just giving you answers before they know much about you, you might want to have a little light bulb go off, and maybe you're going to say, hey, I need to keep looking. I know in copywriting, I have clients coming to me sometimes who say, here, just write. And I say, well, we need to talk. We have a strategy session, a whole 90-minute strategy session before I write even one word. And they say, my last copywriter just wrote. And I say, so what, why are you here? Well, she did a terrible job. And, it's like, okay, but this is why I ask you these questions. If someone just comes in and starts throwing words on a page, you're not going to be satisfied. So yes, I think it would be good, but not all people who are in the service business are ready for the answers to these questions and will not know how to frame the answers and how to deal with these questions. So I would say work with the provider and see if you get a sense that they understand you, that they know where you're coming from, they have a plan to solve your problem, and mostly that they are really important questions, and that they see you as important. Anytime, I mean, like if you go to a lawyer, you say I have this case, and then you say one sentence and say, well, here's what we're going to do. You know you're in for a long, miserable ride. So I would say see what they do. Give them a chance to show how much they're interested in you before you start moving in that direction. And then Connie says, some people feel challenged when you ask them questions. Absolutely, yes. Even though they should welcome this opportunity. And you're absolutely right, as Connie's always right. You're absolutely right that it's a lack of confidence, that people are not sure of themselves. In fact, when someone gets defensive, when you say you did this wrong, or I disagree with you, or I don't understand this, if someone gets defensive, it's because they're not sure of themselves. People who are confident really are thrilled. I love it when someone says, I don't think you've got that right. Fine, tell me where I'm wrong. Show me, give me evidence, and I'm thrilled. So that would be that's a really good point, that people will feel challenged, and then they will get defensive. So I would say start with the 3 questions. And again, you can download the ebook. I go into much more detail there and have a whole course if you really want to get in depth. And working on story. I believe storytelling is something that you can use for really just about every aspect of your marketing. I think story is something you use strategically. It's not something you just use for the sake of having a story. It's something you use with a purpose for this specific goal of applying a particular strategy and simplifying what you do. And so many times when I work with clients, whether it's on their backstories, whether it's on their branding, it's more, the story really clarifies. And people, when you say people need to be more patient, Ruby is saying, they're more comfortable as answering questions. Yeah. And I assume you're referring to the client being more patient. And that's absolutely, well, I think that's a good point. A lot of times, especially if they're worried, remember that if they're the client, they're scared. Especially if you're new. I don't care what service you're in. The first time is scary, even if people don't admit it. It is scary. The first time you see a new doctor or dentist or cleaning service, it's scary, and being put in an uncomfortable position. Well, I think that's an interesting question. I would suggest that you redefine this, that when you're being asked questions, people are looking up to you as a source of power and authority. If people are asking you a lot of questions about things, whether you're a client, and when you're the client, they should put you at ease when they do this. And I would be encouraged by questions. That's how I would look at it. Well, it's 12:28, so it looks like we're coming to the very end. If there are any last minute, I love this. My mother-in-law always asked these questions, and I was challenged. That's a really good point, because one of the points I make when I talk about stories and comments and relationships in general, personal is different from professional. When you're going to a family reunion, virtual or in person, when you're going into a family reunion, you will tell stories about yourself that are different from the stories you will tell your clients as a marketer. When you're going to a family reunion, I don't go to very many, but I think it's very rude to walk in and say, hi, my kids just got into Harvard and I just got a $200,000 raise at work and things are going great. But when you're marketing yourself, you don't brag directly, but people want to know that you're good and they want to hear good things about you. They don't want to hear all about your problems and that you're struggling. I mean, I know people say that, but it's not really what they want. They want to trust you and look up to you. So I would say, if you think about what it was about your mother-in-law that was intrusive, make sure you aren't doing that with your clients. And I think people have different expectations. I'm much more careful with clients than I would be with, say, an old friend. So I don't know, but that's an interesting question to ponder for the future. So we are done. It is 12:30. Thank you all so much. I'm going to be, we're going to be presumably booted out of here at the half hour, as I understand. I'll stay until, I'll give it another minute. Oh, and Connie says, thank you. Thanks, guys. And I don't know about kids or significant others. I think that's a different kind of relationship. And I encourage clients to be very professional with their clients and their business, and more relaxed with their families. But I'm not a life coach, so I don't do family stuff. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I think it looks like we're time to go. And as I typed in where to reach me, CathyGoodwin.com, if you want to follow up. Thanks again, and I'll maybe see you on another call in another venue. Thanks again, guys.